Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me again on the Tony Tonkin Show to discuss another very important issue. It's not really important. It's actually talking about Peta Credlin from Sky News and the crap that she carries on with. And if you are a progressive of any shape or size or sex or whatever, it doesn't matter to Credlin. She's gonna have a go at you. And even if you're Australia's greatest ally and you're a sister country like New Zealand, she'll particularly have a go at who you are, what you think, and how you care to behave. And and the thing is that what I discovered about Sky News is that they've had a lot about Jacinda because she's been in Australia, but also because Jacinda Ardern has also enjoyed some sort of celebrity status because of the shootings in New Zealand a few years ago, and how she rose to the occasion in relation to that, how she was able to meet that terrifying moment with a great deal of empathy, understanding, and policy changes that changed gun legislation in New Zealand, and she almost did it overnight. And most people admire her for that. And she gave the commencement address, I think this year at the Harvard University or Cambridge, one of those, and she spoke passionately about social justice issues, about gun control as it impacts them in the US and so forth. And she's got a lot of valuable things to say. I'm a fan. I don't deny that. I'm not suggesting that at every turn she is right. I don't know what the issues are in relation to the Maori population in New Zealand, even though Credlin seems to think that she does. So I can't comment on any of that. But I do have a clip here from Peta Credlin talking about Jacinda Ardern in ways which I find disingenuous, that are really trying to attack her simply because she thinks differently to them. And I think this is the problem with Sky News and other commentators. Now look, if someone says something that I believe is inappropriate or unhelpful, no matter which side of the political spectrum they may be on, I will disagree with them. If it conflicts with my own values and my own beliefs, then I'm going to make a stand and I'm going to say that that is simply wrong. I don't care who you are. And the same in life. If I meet people that have a different view to me, if it's going to harm other people in particular, or if it's unhelpful, I will put forward my point of view. I won't attack them necessarily, but I'll certainly be prepared to tell them what my view is around those issues. Now, I find though that with Sky News, they have this extreme right perspective that is generally unhelpful because it isn't giving a Sky in the United States says that their news, they've done away with it now, but they just say it was fair and balanced. Well, it wasn't fair and it certainly wasn't balanced. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that news medias in general do get it right. We know that many of them get it wrong. They publish incorrect photographs of people. They make statements that are clearly blatantly false. Some journalists, not all, but some journalists don't bother to check their sources, and as a result they make mistakes. I understand all of that, and sometimes some journalists will come out with some newsworthy stories that are valuable and that we need to know about, and then consequently sometimes those particular news medias are taken to court in relation to those. So I understand all of that, but I also know that there are times when we need to make a stand against those people that put out right-wing propaganda that is just unfair, and that it's really about their ideological version of the world and not about any sense of balance or proportion. And here we have Credlin doing it again. I'll make a further clip later on about the three monkeys, I call them, who tend to talk about stuff that they really don't know anything about, but particularly take on those views. I'll air that one soon after I've done this video, I think. But I just wanted to show you this. So the opening shot I've got of Credlin is this one, and I reckon we should take a picture of this because This is who she is, right here and now. How evil can you get? And she certainly has that look about her. So, to be fair, if we can possibly be fair, and if we want to be fair, and I do try to be fair, even though I guess there's some people that might argue that I'm not. This is what Credlin had to say, and let's just have a talk about it.
Let's bring in my regular Thursday night guest, the Australian's foreign editor, Greg Sheridan. We'll start, if we can.
Let's just take a note. Greg Sheridan is extremely right-wing as well. You just wouldn't get a balanced view talking about this issue if you brought on a progressive or someone from the Labor Party, I don't think.
Greg, with that speech today from Jacinda Ardern, and on so many levels it was a shocker. She was lecturing Australia on not taking sides in the Pacific.
She wasn't lecturing Australia. She was simply talking about her views, her own personal and political views around some of these key issues. So is this saying that a politician or someone from another country can't talk about their views without it appearing that they're lecturing? To me, that's just bizarre, and it's a stupid statement to make. She makes a couple of these stupid statements. She speaks about this.
It would also be wrong to position the Pacific in such a way that they have to pick sides.
Now, in that comment, Jacinta would have spoken 10 words, if that. And they've cut it off. So this is the point where, so we don't get the context in which to talk about, and I haven't seen the total speech that Ardern gave, but it is clear though they've cut it off at this point because that is the only snippet that they want. This is the only point that sort of justifies or presents an argument that they could challenge. And so here she goes.
But of course, the rest of the world is taking sides on China's regional aggression. Then there was this rebuke on what she calls the violence of climate change. Her words, not mine.
Climate change must be a foreign policy priority. While we all have a concern, and rightly so, about any moves towards militarisation of our region, that must surely be matched by a concern for those who experience the violence of climate change.
And in a moment, what we'll see is we see Credlin attacking the words violent of climate change. You know, if you're living in a Pacific country, and as many islands within the Pacific region, within our region, are experiencing that they've either got hurricanes, they've got extreme weather conditions, and they've got rising sea levels. If you consider those people, that is a pretty violent impact of climate change. I think the use of the word violent is a sound word because it does express what a lot of these countries are experiencing. People are dying because of the impact of climate change. And to use the word violent to me just seems fine. But for someone like Credlin and those people on the right, for some reason you can't use the word violent. I don't know what other word you could use, you know. I think it's quite a descriptive word. It seems to work with me, but I can tell you now it doesn't work with Credlin.
And she finished off giving us a spray on Indigenous issues. I played a little bit of that a bit earlier. When, as my guest last night, Oliver Hardwich, explained her handling of Maori issues at home has sent her approval ratings plummeting, with the opposition leader now in front of Ardern.
I haven't seen those figures. I haven't even looked up to see whether what Credlin's saying is correct. So we will assume that for whatever reason those are down. However, I do note that Credlin didn't say to what extent they're down. So is it 49 to 50? I mean, you know, what percentage is she actually talking about? And I'm not going to spend all that much time harbouring on Credlin's right-wing propaganda, but I do think we need to call her out for what it is that she's doing. She's trying to instill in her audience the fact that under all circumstances, Credlin and the horde of incredible deficient individuals that sit at Sky News are all telling the same sort of story, that that the right, whoever you might be, wherever you come from, are saying and doing things that are that challenge, I guess, what the right are particularly thinking and feeling, and particularly their ideology, and they can't accept that other people may have other views. So we'll just play a little bit more of this, and then we'll talk about it then.
Am I being too tough on St Jacinda, Greg?
I just find it interesting that she uses the word Saint Jacinta. Like, who's making her a saint? The point is that Jacinda has got a reputation. There was a Sarah Ferguson interview with Jacinda Ardern on the 7:30 report last week, or this week, which I found really quite fascinating, because it did talk about, or it did ask her those questions. You know, you're kind of like a celebrity now. Does that impact the way you manage and deal with politics? And Jacinda Ardern's response was, well, you know, I can't help the way other people care to view me, but it clearly does offer her an opportunity to be more vocal about the things that are important to her. So let's see what more, just briefly, what Sheridan has to say.
Charitable self. I have to tell you honestly, I think
Christian charitable self. There is nothing in Crellin that I see as Christian, and there's certainly nothing in her that's charitable. So I don't know where the hell he gets those ideas from, but if you want to suck up to somebody, I guess that's the sort of thing you say.
Jacinda Ardern as a political leader is as silly as a two-bob watch. I don't know any leader anywhere in the world who talks so much nonsense so consistently and gets such lavish, wonderful praise for it.
That in itself is a contradiction, I need to say, because if she was speaking nonsense, if she was the Boris Johnson of this world or the Donald Trump of this world, you would be getting the sort of praise, the across-the-board sort of praise that Jacinda Ardern gets. And, you know, I can't remember Donald Trump being invited to other countries to talk about any of his fantastic and nuanced ideas about society in general and about the world is turning out. And I mean, the best that Trump could ever do was about the changing weather conditions and changing stuff on maps and making sure that we all understood that we're going to get cancer from the wind turbines. I mean, the man was a moron. You wouldn't invite him out, but you'd invite someone like Jacinda, who's articulate and has a clear understanding of to what these issues mean.
I don't know what she's taking in her morning coffee. She says, don't position the Pacific into a state where it's got to pick sides. We're trying to give the Pacific an alternative from being conscripted into debt traps and hegemony by the most ruthless authoritarian dictatorship in the world. And she says, don't cast this struggle as one between authoritarianism and democracy. She might as well say, don't describe the sky as blue and the...
I think what she's saying, and the way I interpret that, and which I do agree with from a diplomatic perspective, is that she's not suggesting that we poke the bear and that we need to find more appropriate ways to deal with China rather than prodding and poking them all the time. Doesn't mean we're not aware as to their transgressions and their need to want to take over and control the Pacific regions, particularly which is her and our region, but don't poke it and find ways to negotiate with them. I mean, I think that's the most appropriate way, unless people like Sheridan and Crellin would prefer us to go to war with someone like China. I don't understand their perspective, and quite frankly, not all that interested in that. So I want to thank you for being with me, and if you've got any comments, please make them below, and I'd really like you to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell just to kick my numbers up would be really good. So thanks for being with me, take care, and look after yourself.